Hey everyone, today's tutorial is going to be about retouching this particular picture. The picture was taken in Miami by a photography friend of mine. So she was gracious enough to share this particular picture for basically practice purposes and editing. So basically the picture needs a lot of work because I'm trying to edit it in my own perspective on how I would have shot it or how I would have wanted the picture to look. It's always fun to work on other photographers' pictures. So this particular one is quite an interesting one because if you look at the background, the water, the lady, and the sky, it's a very well arranged picture, and I really like the way she the cloth selection. Basically, you have a backdrop of green and blue, and then you have her standing in red, and it kind of just pops off. And I like the way they did the lighting, and she was pretty much well exposed in terms of the lighting, and then yeah, everything else. I think it was a very beautiful picture. That's why I chose it, and I was like, let me try and see what I can do with it. So the first thing we're going to do is cropping. Pictures, it's usually very important when it comes to, especially if you're going to be sharing the pictures on Instagram. I usually crop using a ratio of 4:5 or 8:10. So after selecting the crop tool, what I usually do is position and frame the subject better. So I'm trying to get a very somewhat tight shot of her. Yeah, I think this one is quite good, and yeah, this is perfect. So we have a spot in the middle with headroom, and then in the foreground you have a bit of water, and just places us right in the middle, which is perfect. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I think I like the color temperature is pretty much fine, though I'm going to try and just drop a tiny bit towards the blues. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Then I'm going to definitely cut out all the highlights. I'm just going to push my highlights to negative 100. And then the shadows, I'm going to lift the shadows a bit, push it towards the positive a bit, maybe like around 33. Yeah, 33 there. It's fine. The whites, I'm going to, I don't know. Let me just drop the whites subtle. It's like -2 there. And then the blacks, I'm going to definitely, because I need that little bit of contrast, so I'm going to push blacks a bit towards -12 there. So if you look at the before and where we are right now. Oh, and if you want to get the shortcut for in Lightroom, just basically press the Y key, and then it will display the before and after. Then after you've done previewing, you just press it again, and it goes back to the window, the development window. So basically, I'm going to, for texture, I think I need a bit of texture. It's a bit blurry. So I'm just going to like put maybe say like 2% on texture, and clarity I'm also going to put like 1. I don't want it to be too sharp. I don't think I'm going to play with a dehaze. It's perfect. It's vibrance and saturation. Some people play with it, but me, I don't really like it because I'm going to do a lot of, I usually do it when my grading. So I think the picture is quite vibrant enough, and saturation is pretty much spot on. What else? Definitely sharpening. Maybe I'm going to put, because it's a JPEG, so I'm going to need a bit of sharpen on, just like something subtle, like say 5%, and then yeah, a bit of masking to make sure the subject, I don't want the sharpening to be all over the picture. I need it on particular parts, like say the edges, and then the background on the trees, then some bit of water. I think that's perfect. And if it was shot like late at night or something, I would use the denoise it a bit, but I'm not going to touch that because it's pretty much done well. Then yeah, definitely you always remember to enable profile correction, lens correction. See the difference? If you're just toggling, this helps a lot. So, and remove chromatic aberrations. It usually might not be visible to your eyes, but the small subtle things do help out a lot. And I think I like the picture the way it is. I'm just going to maybe calibrations, since it's a bit warm. I'm just going to push a bit of the blues, and yeah, I think that's it. Maybe play around with the greens a bit. Yeah, and that's, I like the picture already. This is the before and this is what. So basically I like the point at which the picture is right now. I like it. In I'm pretty much getting ready to send it off to Photoshop, but I need to fix the sky. I don't want to fix the sky in Photoshop, so I'm just going to do that while I'm here. I'm going to go to my luminance panel. My neighbor is playing with his motorbike and it's quite annoying. Sorry about that noise. Yeah, but so yeah, I'm going to play with the blues and push the blues. It's a JPEG, so beware of banding and a lot of artifacts. You can't just do that. It's going to pretty much be very careful, especially when you're working with JPEGs. If it was a raw file, it would have been so quite nice. I wish they did like a raw shot for this. It would have been really nice. And maybe a bit of aqua. Let's see what it does. I'm not liking the banding. If you're looking at this, already like a lot of banding happening there. Yeah, and I'm going to go to the hue. I don't know. I always like my greens natural green. I don't like the yellow. You could do the yellowish green like that, and then or you could have like an extremely green. But I'm going to play a lot with the water later on. I want the water to be blue, so I need that contrast. So I'm not going to push it too much towards too much of green. I just like the way the green here, because in my edit all this is going to be blue. I need the water to be like pure blue, so I'm going to, I don't want the greens to blow out a lot, so I'm going to cut down also on the saturation on the greens, rather luminance on the green. I don't want it to pop. Yeah, I need it like around there. So I think the picture is pretty much ready for export. So I'm just going to right click it, go to edit and edit in Photoshop. So yeah, edit with Lightroom, copy with Lightroom adjustments. And if you don't want, if you want to just send the original, you can do that. But I always send with my Lightroom adjustment. Then click edit. It should be loading. So yeah, let's switch to Photoshop and then let's see what we can do. Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to do is duplicate the layer. I need to work on a new copy. So I just Control J to duplicate it. Sorry. Yeah. Then most of the first things I always do when I'm editing a picture, I like making sure the model and everyone is in perfect figure, shapes and everything. People are very conscious about their body and things like that, especially models and even regular people. So most times I go with the Liquify brush and try and, sculpt the body a bit. And when you're doing this, you have to be extremely cautious. And you have to also know a bit of how the human anatomy works. Because I have a background as a 3D modeling artist. So I used to watch a lot of anatomy videos and stuff like that and do a lot of, basically a lot of edits with, well, a lot of modeling. So we used to go through a lot of anatomy classes and we know how the human body is shaped and stuff. So when you use the Liquify tool, you have to cheat the eye. So when you push her arms up, you see it's pulling also the bit of the water here. So you have to, it's the small details that makes it fools the eye. Now you have to also make sure this is a ball. There's a ball and socket joint around here. So when someone lifts their arms up, definitely there's going to be this bump. So you know what to leave and what to to erase. And then if you're looking at perspective, when you're standing, when you're taking a picture from this angle, imagine yourself there. What would be have what has to be left and what has to be touched on. I think our arm here is pretty much fine. But the thing that most models usually really want a lot is this particular area. Most people don't really want to have wide hips. They usually prefer to have slim waist. So I'm going to help her out in that department and shape that a bit in. Yeah. So you see how it basically changes our silhouette. I'm moving that shape, but at the same time also being cautious on the background, with the water in the background, because you have to be very careful with that, because it's borderline looking, it was edited or someone pushed it. I just want everything to always look natural to a point that someone can see it and then they'll be like, okay, maybe this is how she looks naturally, but it's all edited. So that's the trick with Photoshop. Edit to a point that no one can tell the difference if something was done if it was a Photoshop effect or it's a real life thing. So you see, I'm basically balancing everything. I'm not pushing too much on this side, because if you look at how she's turning her torso, you would see more curve this side than this side. So you have to balance and make sure you look at this. If you look at the before, you see the difference it makes. Yeah, so I'm pretty much done with adjusting her body shape. So the next step would be, now we get into the frequency separation so that I can start working on her skin. So I'm going to run my frequency separation actions. If you need some of these actions, just DM me. I have a couple of them on sale, so if you need, yeah, definitely just let me know. And we can do something. So once I know this particular picture is it's not more of a close-up, it's a bit far away, so I have to adjust my settings a bit. These settings usually I set up when I'm doing close-up, but it's a bit far away, so I'm going to put it like at around 9 or 8 there. Yeah, this one works. Let's pull out a bit and see how it looks. Push in a bit, and yeah, so it's ready now. I've tweaked up my frequency my actions, and I'm just going to run it, and yeah, it's done. Yeah, the actions are done. So once the actions are done with, you just go to your mixture brush, and then you start painting away with your mixture brush. The settings I'm using: wetness of 25, the load is at 100, mix of 20, flow of 15. But when you're mixing, you have to be very careful, because the two layers, there is the high frequency and then the low frequency. Low frequency is all about tones and colors. High frequency is just basically texture, like the skin, pimples and stuff. That's what you do in the high frequency. But I always start off with the low frequency. So when you're doing tones and colors, you have to brush similar colors together. You cannot do, say, from darkness to, no, that's a wrong thing to do. So always paint the dark areas. Let me say now, like on her rib, her side of her ribs here. See, now I'm brushing the brown areas together. I'm doing the shadows together, the mid-tones of the same color. So everything seamlessly and gradually moves towards each other. The highlights, I'm now working on them as highlights. I work with similar colors together. Colors of different tones, I paint them separately, so that it doesn't have that smudge effect. I always see a lot of photographers when they do the frequency separation. If you zoom in carefully, you always see those small details, and it's those small things that some cautious clients pay attention to. So you have to be very careful when you do that. And then when you're playing with tones, you're also pretty much shaping the person's body. If you do your tones, the low frequency layer playment, if you were playing with the low frequency in a bad way, you can pretty much make someone either lose weight or gain weight. Or you could just shape the lighting on how the light falls on that person's skin, and the person just looks amazing. So you have to be very careful how you do your frequency separation, because it has a borderline of going amazing or pretty much a botched project. So you have to be very careful. So, and then also the direction of and your strokes matters a lot. So I'm following two things here. I'm following tones and I'm following curvature. I'm trying to get the right, flow. If it's I know the light is having a C shape here, so I'm going to have my brush, my strokes in that manner. And here I'm also going to do the opposite. Then if you look at on her chest here, I'm also knowing that there's a curve here, and then there's, so when I'm up here, I always have that movement, going from basically left to right, but also minding the tones at the same time. So I'm not just rubbing everything together. No, I'm moving along the lines of the tones. Then on the neck, I'm also going to do the same thing. And I know there's a V here, and then I'm trying to follow that V of the neck at the same time minding the tones. So when you come here, do the same thing. So carefully brushing, because you know that I'm going to come back and dodge and burn these highlights. So I'm making sure I leave them, I don't spoil everything. Yeah, so and then when you also do this process, you have to keep in mind your color grade and your dodge and burn in the next steps. You need to, it's pretty much, it's like how I'm painting the mid-tone, the highlights of this particular part, because I know that this is where light is pretty much falling. So when I come later on to dodge and burn, I know what I want. But if I push these shadows towards this, I would lose all these beautiful details, and then later on I would just have nothing to work with, and I just have to artificially add something which doesn't look natural, and then it just spoils a very beautiful picture. So yeah, the knuckles here too. Then so the skin is pretty much done with. I'm just doing a rough edit. If it was for a print or professional job whereby it's going to be printed or it's taken somewhere or on a website on an editorial stuff, I would take much more time doing this. But since this is just for demonstration purposes and pretty much showing you guys how it's done, I'm just rushing through it. But definitely on a normal paid for project and stuff like that, I would take pretty much 3 or 4 hours just making sure all these things are spot on. It would take me longer though. I could probably use even 5 hours on just one picture. So so making sure the forehead and everything. So I always work from afar, then go in, zoom out like that, then toggle before and after, see where you are. Then I'm going to go on the high. I don't think there's anything really. Let me just get this. So I'm getting my clone stamp, sample a clean area, clean out this part, this one. It's water, but from afar looks like pimples, so I have to make sure I clean it up. And there's a spray here, small details, but you might not even notice or see them from afar really from that particular wide angle. But it's practice. It's just mental exercise. When you do these things over and over again, you pay a lot of attention to details, and it just becomes a part of you. So you always have to pay attention to the small things. And I think that's basically it. So now you have problem areas like armpits. Some models prefer to have less dark. They want the tones of the armpits to be uniform and clean. So I'm just going to use my selection tool and select armpits, and then I'm going to go to the blur and motion. Usually use my motion then to basically sculpt this part. So you see, some people use Gaussian blur, but me I use motion blur because it makes the, I also pay attention to the direction of light a lot. So you see now like this particular area, also called blur and motion blur, put it on the opposite direction of how the light is falling on her skin. Yeah, something subtle but gets things done. See? So now you have matching tones and everything. So once you have that one done, you're done with the frequency separation. Create a new layer with everything. So I'm going to just pretty much go with my, I want to even out the skin. So I'm going to go and run another action. I'm going to have the even skin tone. So now when you have this, what you have to do is change the gradient of, we're just going to use a gradient map to pretty much map out the skin tones. So what I'm going to do is select this and select the darkest tone of our entire body, which I think it's around here as the color, and then you're going to get the mid-tone, which is I think around here, and then you're going to get the highlight of her skin, which is I think here would make the best highlight for her skin. So you're done. The blending mode set to color using a brush, and I'll just go on and paint her skin. You'll see how it changes. You might not notice this changes immediately, but the changes are usually subtle, but it's quite powerful. See, everything's going to just blend in. Oh, sorry. So you have to use when you're painting your mask, use the opposite color. Now the mask was black, so I'm going to pretty much paint with white to reveal. So white reveals, black hides. So I'm just going to paint over this, and yeah, that's it. Paint, 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 and see what it does to the skin. It basically lifts up the shadows, blends everything. Our skin tone is now getting unified. So basically what this does is just it unifies the skin, and yeah, gives like a one color tone to the entire body. So you see our arms here, there's a cast of the sky on our arms, and everything seals in nicely. You might not even, on some areas you might not notice any change at all, but trust me, it's there, it works. I've done this quite a lot of times, and yeah, it always works. So yeah, pretty much that. Then check the layer. Yeah, so let's go back a bit. You see, let me turn it on and see. Subtle, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the screen, but it's a subtle effect, but it works. So after that, it's done. We merge another layer. What else can we do now? What else? I think, yeah, let's go and dodge and burn. I think we're ready to dodge and burn it. So I usually Control Alt and click on the new layer, and then it just brings up this dialog box. Put it on soft light, fill it with 100% gray, put it on top, and then using my brush set, I usually set opacity like a 24, flow of maybe 4, and brush set to white. So I'm just going to paint on the highlights and basically dodging the highlights. So I like the way this that the bones, her ribs kind of protrudes here a bit. So I'm trying to enhance that shape. Yeah, and then also trying to give her a bit of definition on this. How do they call them? The packs. Yeah, like, so I'm trying to create some definition in that area. Like I said, anatomy plays a lot, so you have to know how light works when they cast on a person's skin. What would be in highlight, what would be in sometimes some people use checkers and stuff. Like we say, they usually create a black and white layer on top, maybe reduce on this, reduce on the other layers, and then they usually, you know, say turn off everything but the lower, the initial layer. So you usually turn off the frequency separation or whatever you've done, and pretty much just leave the what the dodge and burn layer only, and yeah, you paint so that way you can see the textures better. You know where everything falls. Sometimes I don't use those checker layers because I pretty much I've done this a couple of times and I know where things fall, but it's good practice to have them. So it helps you see certain things better. So anything that helps, it's usually very good to have. So on and off, you see my dodge layer. And another thing is I also don't like mixing my dodge and my burn layers. I always create two separate ones because sometimes you need to change certain things and I don't like it when they blend up together. Yeah, so now I change the flow a bit higher because now I'm just going to go and hit the strong parts, places I need much more strong definitions on. Let me say like this part here, this. Yeah, so that's it, and that's done with the dodge and the dodge layer. So create another one, normal, soft light, field, and yeah, then do the dodge, change the color, change the brush color to black, and then do another one, start painting on the ribs, this part. See how strong uh, the flow is. So I'm going to just cut it down a bit, like four. I can always play with opacity later, but it saves a lot of time if you just do it now. So I'm just defining the shadow areas and dark areas where I want a bit of contrast on the skin. So in this particular point, yeah, definitely the black and white layer comes in handy. Usually when I'm doing professional, rather than doing the client work, I take a lot of time when I'm doing this dodge. And I also do micro dodge and burn before doing my frequency separation. After doing the liquify work and everything and shaping the body, I go in with I always dodge and burn, micro dodge and burn before I even do frequency separation. It does a lot, trust me. If those are some of the things I think I'll show you guys a bit in the future, how I get things done. Yeah, so I'm just trying to darken this particular part and give definition to this six packs. Yeah, and then also going to get a bit on her, the hair and this part. Yeah, so let's turn back everything on and turn off the black and white layer. See, minus. This is with the dodge layer. What the dodge does to the skin is what the burn does to the. Well, this is what the dodge does to the skin. This is what the burn does to the skin. So I think yeah, we are ready. We're going to delete the black and white layer, create another layer on top. Control. Oh, yeah. So it's done. And I think yeah, I like. Now let's get into the coloring bit of things. First thing first, go with the contrast, sample the highlights and play around with that, and shadows, make that popping. So make everything pop. Small adjustment, but does a lot of things. It's too strong though, just need like at 19 there. Yeah, so it gets everything in focus. So another one I usually do is go to color my lookup. So I usually load up a couple of lookups and see what it does. See, like how it does. It creates texture on her skin. Let me see what others can do. that's not good. That one gives it a warm look. It's not bad. I like that one too. But now I have to choose the best. This particular picture, going for a very deep melanin look. Number 2 is not so bad. One. So it's not quite interesting. So it's a battle between 6 and 2. Interesting. I think I'm going to go with 2, though I'm going to dial it down a bit. Yeah, like here. Let me dial it down. Yeah, I'm going to go with 2 and dial it down. Much more. There. Yeah, I like that one. Looks better there. So now let's work on the water. I'm going to create an empty layer and get my brush. Set the color to something blue, like a really nice tropical water. So I'm going to change everything back to 100 and just pretty much paint everywhere here. Paint water. So change the blending mode to color and create a mask. So now we're going to go closer with a nice brush and then start painting, minding the edges. You could use a selection like auto selection and just get her cut out, but some of these things you have to make sure the blending is not a difference. The brush blending, so just go over this particular part. I usually first get her highlight, basically make sure she's cut out completely from the water, then the rest of it, painting it, is quite easy. Don't worry when you see the blues spill over, like maybe on her skin and stuff like that. Don't really mind that. We can come and clean it up later. So let's get that cleaned up. So you zoom in closer now with black to cut out and just clean up her skin. Attention to details. Yeah, I think also here. I'm just pressing X to toggle between black and white. Okay, so I think that's it, and let's just paint the rest of our body. Like, yeah, just paint the rest of the blues back without having to worry about a lot of things, because she's already pretty much cut out, so can play around and get everything else back in the picture. But yeah, one more thing, in case you guys need to see other tutorials and maybe have some tips on things I should perhaps improve on, or certain things you would want me to elaborate more on, do hit me up and leave a comment. I'll definitely respond and try and work on them. Yeah. to pull out a bit and see what that water does. See how nice. So don't I usually go with the feel. You see, play with the water now a bit with the feel. So you have a bit of, there's no pure blue water. It's usually a mixture of green and blue, really. So yeah, play with that feel and see how it works. See, I like that. So yeah, that's how I get it done. So maybe create another layer, sample the sky, and put it on color, and just paint over it and see what, just to get the blues back. I'm going to cut out this a bit. Now erase this. Subtle but does. Let me just try and see what other blending words could do for that. Let me try and see. So now multiply. Let's multiply, but then let's change the feel again. I would love to do a sky replacement, but it would definitely become a very long tutorial. But let me just darken that a bit. I'm going to go with my levels a bit. So you see, I'm trying to create more contrast on the water down here. Okay, let me just undo that a bit. Okay. Yeah, so I'm trying to create some contrast on the water a bit. It just lacks when you bring back the contrast, it brings a bit more details on the water. Yeah, I think that one looks much better. And then I'm going to create another curves layer, and I want to darken the green is just too bright, so I'm just going to darken the green a bit. So I'm going to darken the green at the same time trying to avoid to darken her skin. So I'm just going to use the masking of the skin tone layer that we painted to make it as the mask of our. So just invert that. Yeah, and you have everything works out. So we have her basically now shaping light. We're trying to get her to stand out and everything else to kind of fall back a bit. I'm going to also change the tone. I don't like that the green is too strong, so I'm just going to try and maybe desaturate it a bit. Go to the greens channels itself. Maybe try and get something else. No, doesn't work. Okay. Just use the same, but we're going to cut out the water because I want it to just affect the greens only. So we're going to come with our black brush and just paint out the water. I need the water to be vibrant. Yeah, I need to have some elements on the sky. The sky looks a bit too plain to me, so I need something to spice up the sky. Let me go to let me try and see if I took some pictures of the moon a couple of times back. Let me see if one of them could help me. I took this some nights back with my 600mm Tamron lens, Let me try and see if I can use it to spice out the background a bit. So I'm going to, yeah, you see, something small, but it adds a lot. So I'm going to mask it. I want to mask a bit of it out because I don't want it to be a full moon. I just need like a bit of the moon popping just somewhere there. And the black edges are also kind of showing, so I'm just going to clean it up a bit. But the moon is a bit lost there, so I'm just going to duplicate it twice and merge this and then screen again, and then some levels to create some sort of contrast in the moon. Not too much. Yeah, I think that's nice. So now get back to actually color grading the full picture. So I'm going to start with my curves. I'm going to bring out the midtones a bit because I feel like there's too much contrast in the midtone. Bring out the midtones up a bit. Yeah, like that. Looks nice. What else? What else? I think we're going to also play around with the selective color a bit. Yeah, I'm going to do. Let's play with the magenta. Yeah, I need the greens back on that sky a bit there. That all looks nice. So let's also let's cut out the whites a bit there, and black. Need it to be a bit warm in the shadows. Yeah, like that. I think I really like this picture. So let's see before and after. Before, after. Yep, it's getting there. It's getting there. I'm going to get a bit of contrast on her hair. I need the blacks to pop out. So I'm going to come back with my, change it to luminosity. So I'm just going to invert that quickly. Just come through and paint on her hair a bit. Yeah, there. So let's go back up and see the difference it creates. We just merge it again, and then you go to your sharpen. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, yeah, and just try sharpening the hair a bit. Then also these droplets of water, I want them to really stand out. So I'm going to sharpen them a bit. So it's just like selectively sharpening this heart tattoo, her hair, like, yeah, something like that. Sorry, my phone is running out of battery. But yeah, this one looks perfect. So I'm just going to, I think I'm pretty much done with the picture right now. So yeah, this is how I would go about editing such a picture, and I think it quite looks nice if you look at the before picture and after, before and after, before and after. So that's it. So let me know in the comment area if you need me to do much more videos on such a topic, or to create more content on particular areas that you would like to learn. But thanks a lot for the likes and following and everything. Yeah, I do really appreciate it. Make sure you also check out my Instagram. Sometimes I post a couple of things up there. So if you need a particular picture, maybe broken down and explain something, do let me know. But thanks a lot. Have a nice day.
No, no, I get up. No, 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 I get up. No, no, can't deny that. No, no, I get up. No, 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 I get up.